Have you ever really stopped to think about what anchors your trust in reality? You believe that if you see something, if you hear the rhythmic thud of wheels on a linoleum floor, if you touch the cold, sterile steel of a gurney, it has to be real. You believe in the physical world because it is tangible, because it is consistent. I used to believe that too. I used to think the world was built on a foundation of concrete facts. But I've learned that reality is more like a thin layer of paint over a rotting floorboard. You can walk on it for years, never noticing a thing, until one night the floor gives way and you realize there was nothing underneath all along. My name is Jake, and I work the graveyard shift at a large medical center's morgue. Most people find the job macabre, but to me it's just processing. It's a place where death is reduced to clean, manageable bureaucracy. It's all paperwork, stamps, digital manifests, and those little plastic toe tags with barcodes. Everything here is dictated by protocol. If you're here, there's a record. If there's no record, you don't exist. It's a closed loop, a perfect circle of accountability. But what if I told you that some things can enter the system without leaving a single trace? What if the very infrastructure you trust with your life, the digital backbone of the hospital, is capable of editing your presence out of existence? It was a Wednesday, deep into the night. I was working solo, as I usually do on the graveyard shift. The hallways were humming with that low-frequency drone of the HVAC, a sound that usually fades into the background. But tonight, it felt amplified, like a heavy pressure against my eardrums. The fluorescent lights were flickering with a rhythm that usually gives me a migraine by 3 a.m., casting long, jittery shadows that seemed to dance just outside my peripheral vision. I was staring at the main monitor, nursing a cup of coffee that had gone lukewarm hours ago, when the motion sensor at the loading bay tripped. I looked at the screen. A van had pulled up. It was gray, nondescript, the kind of vehicle that blends into the rain-slicked asphalt of a city street. No markings, no commercial logos of a funeral home or a government transport service. No license plates, just a slab of cold, matte gray metal that seemed to emerge from the darkness like a bruise. My stomach tightened, a cold knot forming right behind my ribs. Official transfers always come with a digital manifest an hour in advance. Always. I walked out to the bay, my footsteps echoing against the concrete walls. The air was colder here, smelling of ozone and something sharp, like bleach mixed with dry ice. The driver, a pale man with eyes so flat they looked like smoked glass, didn't say a word. The orderly, pushing the gurney, moved with the mechanical, almost jerky precision of a conveyor belt. I stepped in front of them, trying to find my authority. "Where are the papers?" I asked, keeping my voice steady, though my heart was hammering against my chest like a trapped bird. "I need the manifest. I need a signature." Nothing. The driver didn't even look at me. The orderly didn't pause. They moved with a terrifying indifference, as if I were nothing more than a piece of furniture they were navigating around. When I tried to physically block the path, reaching out to grab the handle of the gurney, I felt this resistance. It's hard to put into words, but it felt like trying to push against an industrial train moving at full speed. It was a physical sensation of wrongness, as if the space they occupied was somehow denser, more rigid than the rest of the world. They just moved forward, passing through my space, and I found myself stepping aside, my limbs feeling heavy and unresponsive. I told myself, it's a special access transfer, maybe some law enforcement thing. Just keep your head down and process it. That was the first mistake, the big one. The bag was inside. It was heavy, weighted with that unmistakable inertia of a human body, and yet There was something about the way it hit the intake table that felt hollow. I began the standard intake for an unidentified body. I typed the data into the terminal. Object number 904-B. I hit save. I watched the green cursor blink, waiting for the system to confirm the entry. But 10 minutes later, when I checked the log to confirm the timestamp, the entry was gone. It was blank. I chalked it up to a glitch. Our equipment is ancient. It bugs out all the time. I rebooted the terminal, wiped the cache, and typed it in again. 904-B. I saw the characters appear on the screen, clear as day. And then, as if the screen itself were exhaling, the text just faded away. It was like the server was rejecting the very concept of this body, treating it like a foreign object in a biological system. Then I checked the security footage. I had seen the van with my own eyes. I had heard the sliding door slam shut. I could still smell the exhaust fumes in the bay. I pulled up the archive, scrubbing back 30 minutes to the moment of arrival, and my heart stopped. The monitor showed an empty hallway. No van, no orderly, no me. Just a sterile, empty corridor. The camera was recording the wall, the floor, the flickering light, but it wasn't recording us. The file wasn't corrupted. There were no digital artifacts, no skipping frames, no missing timestamps. It was pristine. It was just wrong. It was as if the event simply hadn't occurred on record, as if the camera was lying to me in real time. By 3 a.m., the paranoia was a physical ache in my chest. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I went to the fourth locker to see for myself. I needed to know I wasn't losing my mind, that the weight of the bag wasn't a product of my own frayed nerves. I opened the locker. The bag was there. It was just a heavy, black, rubberized shroud, but it looked so small, almost compressed. On the wrist, poking out from the zipper, was the temporary tag I'd attached earlier, marked Doe in my own handwriting. I had even snapped a photo of it on my phone for the file. I pulled out my phone to check the picture. The photo was there. The image of the tag was clear, but the tag in the image was blank. No ink, no ID, nothing. I reached out to touch the wrist, and a cold sweat broke over me. The tag was gone. There was nothing there but a faint, pale indentation on the skin, as if a tight band had been worn there for years. Then the room turned hostile. The digital temperature sensor near the door, which should have been reading a steady 39 degrees, was dead. No error message, just a blank field. I called the technician, and he came down, tinkered with the sensor, and shrugged. It's hardware fine. It's just not reading anything from this point. He looked at me with that tired, dismissive glance that hospital staff give each other when they think someone is cracking under the pressure of the shift. I didn't tell him about the body. I just got him out of there. The isolation was beginning to feel like a cage. I went back to the locker to double-check. The door was cracked open. I knew with absolute certainty that I had latched it. I stepped inside. The air felt stagnant, heavier than it should have been. The body. It was positioned differently. When I first placed it, the hands were folded over the chest. Now they were lying flat at the sides. I felt my stomach drop, a dizzying, sickening sensation of free fall. It wasn't a slump. It was a shift. Someone or something had moved it while I was in the hall. The lack of sound, the absolute stillness of the morgue, suddenly felt like a lie. It felt like a stage set where the props were being moved behind the curtain. I checked the access logs one more time. 0 entries. No one had entered that locker all night. The system claimed with digital certainty that the room had remained sealed for 6 hours. By morning, I was exhausted. I tried to convince myself it was stress, a lack of sleep, or some bizarre mass hallucination induced by the chemicals and the solitude. 2 days later, when I checked the master database, the entry for object number 904-B was nowhere to be found. I asked a colleague about the midnight delivery testing the waters. He looked at me like I was insane. "What are you talking about? There were no deliveries Wednesday night. You spent the whole shift in the break room. I saw you sleeping with your eyes open. You looked like you were having a nightmare." I didn't argue. I couldn't. How do you argue with a reality that everyone else seems to agree on? I still work here. Every time I walk down those halls, I feel like I'm being watched. The silence isn't just the absence of sound anymore. It's a presence. I check the logs religiously, but I don't trust what I see. Recently, I noticed that my own employee ID shows up as an error in the system sometimes. A flickering, grayed-out ghost of a file, just like the one that wasn't there. It's like the system is whispering, "You aren't supposed to be here." And the worst part? Yesterday, I found a thin white strip of plastic in my pocket. The tag, totally blank. I had never touched it again after that night, and yet, there it was, sitting in my pocket as if it had always been there. I don't know what happened that night. An experiment, a glitch in the fabric of this place, or some invisible mechanism that wipes away its own evidence, along with the people who happen to see it. I'm waiting for the day I show up for a shift and my key card doesn't work. I'm waiting for the day I look in the mirror and don't recognize the person staring back, or the day my name is scrubbed from the roster. And the terrifying thing is, if I disappear from the system, will anyone even remember I was here? Or will I just become another blank entry in an archive that no one can read? Sometimes I find myself standing in the morgue, just listening. Not to the HVAC, not to the hum of the computers. I'm listening for the sound of a van engine, or the click of a lock, or the sound of someone else being brought in to be erased. And every time a floorboard creaks or a light flickers, I hold my breath, wondering if this is the moment the floor finally gives way beneath me, and I fall into that empty space where nothing is recorded, where nothing is remembered, and where nobody, absolutely nobody, can ever find you again.